Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Do appreciate it. I know that, well, this is a subject I never thought that we would be covering. This is kind of mind blowing, really, I would argue. Um, so, yeah, so don't even know where to start. So, just very briefly, just in case anybody doesn't know, there's been Lorne has been Lorne has put a document to the courts to ask for him to be taken off parole. And because of that, he's put in this document that part of the reasons why is because he's now a father, which, as you can imagine, is just fucking mind blowing. So, it's it's just crazy. It was funny though because I got a couple of screenshots sent to me by Amanda James in the week, some Wednesday I think it was, and she said, "Please read carefully." I was like, "Oh, this has got to be some kind of big shit." So I was reading these documents, and it was like, "Lorne wants to get taken." I was like, "Where's it going?" This, and it was just legal mumbo jumbo, and I was like, "Okay, I'll keep going." And then I read the line, "Lorne is now a father," and I was like, "What the fucking hell?" And I was like, immediately on the phone to everybody. Because as you can imagine, this is pretty, people are already. Well, Dan Jones has already said, "I'm already calling bullshit." Yeah, we'll get into that, but yeah, we'll all have an opportunity to chew the fat, shall we say, and put our ideas forward. Of course, Tiffany and Amanda James have already been over this on their channel, so this is kind of all of us getting together and just, you know, seeing where it goes. Now, first of all, Shin, could you?
hmm
I think it's good if we start and if you explain from your knowledge what this document is, what power Lorne thinks is invoking, potentially. What is the next step, and just to kind of explain what this document is, if you can. And what I'll do is I'll display stage one is page one of the document is on the screen now on the stream.
Yeah, that pretty much covers the whole stream, doesn't it, Andrew? Um, okay. This is obviously it's a document for early termination. He's on. Everybody knows he's on supervised lifetime probation. I think it, every lifetime lifer or lifetime probation or whatever uh, usually tries this every few years or so. And they appoint a court-appointed attorney too. So, and that's what happened here. Um, Usually, it's a change of circumstances that results in it. Usually, progress. And it's usually supported by probation. These motions are usually supported by probation. This is an opposed motion, opposed by the Justice Department and excuse me, federal probation. And uh, that's, I think, what I'm looking most forward to is their opposition brief, which is coming on May 28th. I think a lot of people will get their questions answered at that point. Um, but just looking at this document on its face, I mean, having done things like this, the first thing I notice is that it's a combination motion and memorandum, which is a very short document. Typically, what you have is a motion that highlights the facts and then highlights the law and then gives a quick conclusion at the end. And then the memorandum really gets into the facts and dives into the law and comes out with a conclusion and much more in depth. This is just one combined thing. And when you look at a memorandum, it's usually the factual part that's the most important. Here, there's only really two facts that support this motion. One is, well, actually, it's kind of mixed up. One is essentially he's not using alcohol again. I mean, just reading between the lines, and he hasn't been in trouble. Uh, Second is that he's being harassed by a whole bunch of people, in terms of his life being upended by probation, and probably he'll make the argument that probation is doing nothing to protect him and whatnot. And the third is that he's a father. And we can get into that last one, which is a blockbuster news, I guess. But the second one, which is to me the most tone deaf argument I've ever heard, and Andrew, you've got to remember this. He's making the argument that all these, just use his terminology, online obsessors, and everybody's making his life a living hell. And this is why he needs anonymity now, and he needs to escape. And of course, no mention of the RSO. By the way, the RSO he'll always be on that, regardless what happens with a motion like this. That takes an act of Congress to change that, or a judge to actually make that order. But that's never going to happen here. But the thing that's tone deaf about that second argument about all of us being the cause of his reason to get off is because that's exactly what Judge Woodcock had told him to avoid. He was trying to give him almost fatherly paternity advice and saying, listen, if you don't hear about that stuff, it won't bother you. And you got to, it's almost like he's coming back saying, Judge, I didn't hear you, but let's talk about that again.
Of course, you're right, but he doesn't see it like that, does he? Because since then, he's been catfished for a number of years. Now, what he'll do, as we know, rather than do exactly what a normal person would do, like you've just alluded to, is say, or at least think, shit, I didn't take the judge's advice. I didn't, I've allowed myself to get into this situation. But for him, he was taken advantage of. And he of course, he was. He's been fucked over royally by this community. Let's not pretend otherwise.
Whoa. He has had a hand in that with his own conduct. He's the one who he claims have his family's privacy has been invaded and whatnot. He's the one who brings everything in. He's the one who's been warned time after time.
Oh,
to stop talking to these internet people.
100%.
He's providing all this fodder for us. He is the one, and he's doing it lesson after lesson after lesson, not learning any of it.
Not from his perspective, though. He's like, let's look at this logically. We don't need to go into this in any detail because we'll be covering the same things. Yeah. But people want to catfish Lorne. People want to waste his time. People want to humiliate him. We all get a good laugh out of it. We're all in the same boat. It's kind of, but he allows that to happen. He's never taken the correct steps, and he didn't follow the advice of the judge. But for him, like when Blue Boy was talking to him, when Casey number 5 or whatever it is went over it and said, "Why do you allow yourself to get into these situations?" And it was taken through step by step to Lorne that he's just desperately lonely. But he's using it as an excuse to, like you said, it's just ridiculous that that this could lead to something positive for him. It's very naive, and that's a very mild way of saying it. It's very naive to think that this is going to give him any credence.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine his exchange with Judge Woodcock with that argument. Yeah, were you here last time we talked about this, sir? I was like, I think everyone realizes that there's something wrong with Lorne, and I think to a certain extent he gets some slack. Because he's dumb. He's just dumb. And all of these unforced errors, these self-inflicted wounds that he causes himself, everybody's aware of that. The world's aware of that. Probation's aware of that. Aunt Sharon's aware of that. So, he's his own worst enemy. And that's exactly what the judge is going to have to tell him again.
Yeah. That is an interesting part of it, but that isn't anything that's not shocking for him to blame the community after all this time for his misgivings, which from a certain perspective is correct. No one should really, we've all in these streams, we've all said, why do we enjoy the catfish calls, blah 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 blah. It's not the highest thing that someone could do. There's better forms of entertainment, and I'm not separating myself from anybody. However, he will never be able to grasp his responsibility for this. He just, what was his words that he said to Casey? He's like, well, people shouldn't be dishonest. That's it. He doesn't think that, well, hang on a minute. Don't like the scammer thing, for instance. Perfect example where he sent the poem to the scammer. It's like he doesn't have that ability to see when someone's being deceptive. He doesn't really want to see it. Yeah, which is ridiculous because this is coming from a fucking sex offender who tried to groom a 13-year-old kid. And he's claiming that other people are being dishonest. The hypocrisy is off the charts, but he's too dumb to see it. This is the strange thing about Lorne. In Lorne's world, he has been victimized. There's no getting away from that. We know the truth. He will. There has to be some kind of fundamental shift in his psyche for him to see that. And it's the same tale, isn't it, Tiffany? That the victim mentality is still there through that document, isn't it?
Of course. Yeah, it absolutely is. It's funny because it made me think about when he was saying, I think when he was talking to Casey, how probation wouldn't allow him on the computer for 5 years. So he had no idea what everyone was up to. And he did know. They've played it for him before. He knew that his phone calls were there. He knew that information was being shared and all of that. But of course, he's the victim, and he'll say, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know any of that. And then, of course, when it comes to all of the advice that Judge Woodcock gave him during that hearing, he didn't hear a single word, literally. And I'm not just saying that he didn't want to hear what he was saying and he was disregarding it. He didn't hear it. Because what did he say when he got up on the stand? He started crying about doing a cooking show. That's all that he was thinking about of what he was going to say, how he was going to make himself the victim. So, of course, everything in here, he's going to make himself the victim of the community, which, of course, is really funny. Absolutely. Whoever's reaching out to him is responsible for reaching out to him. There's no question about that. Anybody writing him letters, anybody showing up, anybody calling him up, they're responsible for doing that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Basically, we all kind of, there's no point going over the sort of moralities of the catfishing again, but we did say, and even you said, Tiffany, being a part of it, is it wrong to call somebody and lie to them and record them? Yes, but because it's Lorne, we don't care. That's the general consensus that everybody came to. But as an adult who's been in his position, who's knows that this community is there, that we are not going to stop listening to his calls, and like I said, I'm part of it. I went to the hearing, blah, 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 blah. It's never going to stop. Why can't he? It's like he doesn't want to accept it, does he?
No, he doesn't. And he doesn't want to accept that he has a part in all of that. He really does. Because all he would have to do is not answer the phone, not reply to letters, not do any of the things that are.
Can I bring up some mitigation now? Lorne, no. Great, that's what I want to hear. But what I mean, not mitigation, but what I mean is, of course, I'm not denying that isn't the truth. Of course, as soon as someone calls him that he doesn't know there is any question about them, phone down immediately. But he allowed himself to be he allowed himself to believe the bullshit of Jamie, of Casey number 3, blah, blah, blah. So from his perspective, he would probably say he did follow the instructions of Judge Woodcock, but people lie. I believe that's what he'd say.
Every person after Ramona was his fault. After he found out that Ramona was live streaming their calls and it wasn't really Ramona, that should have ended there. Every single one. Honestly, even with Ramona, that was his fault. He had already been catfished by Amanda James and how many other women on the internet before. But after Ramona, that should have put the light bulb in his head. Okay, these people are all working together. Ramona, Emma, Dan, the whole crew. Anyone who is associated with them is not trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Person to person. Okay, Winnie's not trustworthy. Ramona's not trustworthy. Okay, I'm going to go to Casey. Casey's actually not trustworthy. It's really Winnie. I'm going to stick with Winnie. But okay, Winnie's a liar. I'm going to go to her sister. And then I'm going to go to her friend Jamie. And they're all in league. And he knew it. He knew it all along. He said, it makes me nervous because Jamie knew the rest of them on the internet. He knew. He didn't want to believe it.
And then even when he's, yeah, I agree. And I think also when he gets asked for something that he doesn't feel comfortable with, he will say that he's not comfortable with that. So that tells him that something's going on. You wouldn't have those spidey senses perking up if you didn't feel like something was wrong. But yet he'll continue anyway. So it's really crazy.
And he'll fight probation on it when
Oh,
they try to be
yeah.
a voice of reason and point out all the things, all the glaring red flags. He will fight with them, and he'll laugh about it and say, I get really defensive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because he knows deep down he can't make a good argument for why he should be talking to any of these people.
It's kind of very frustrating, I think, with people like Lorne. Like, you called him criminally insane once, Shin. I think there's, I mean, I don't know. I would say, well, I don't know, but
Well,
he's
no,
definitely
criminally dumb is the answer.
That's a great
Is the
way.
be-
That's brilliant. Yeah, criminally
Yeah.
dumb. The hallmark of people like Lorne, and this is an eternal truth. This is an absolute truth. People like Lorne that live their lives, that are reckless, etc., etc., they don't take responsibility, and they can't. And it's so frustrating because it's so simple, and they just can't do it. And I think that's why he gets all the stuff he does, because it's, you know, it's the hallmark of any success, no matter what area, whether it's like physical health, whether it's financial, whether it's family, relationships. It's all about taking responsibility for everything, and he never does. And that's what all this is about. And it's frustrating because what it does is it wastes people's time, professionals, the courts, taxpayers' money, blah blah blah, puts people at risk. Is drink driving, and obviously more importantly children. And then he doesn't admit what he's done. So and this is just another part of it.
Yeah, there's a chance that the judge will. Well, first of all, as I said, the memo coming out in opposition to this thing is probably going to have a lot of attachments and stuff. And one of those attachments is going to be his psych evaluation. I mean, that only happened, what, 2 years ago, something like that? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Which reminds me of another thing. Just on the outset, just looking at the timeline of these events, here he was a couple of years ago. He gets a psych evaluation like this, showing that he definitely has no progress. He definitely has been just wasting his time in class, and all of the certain things they've done for him to accommodate him. Now he has single one-on-one, and he still has made no progress. And he couldn't make any friends. He certainly couldn't meet any women. And then flash forward 2 years later, and boom, he's got a family with a baby. How the fuck does that happen? I mean, it doesn't. I mean, unless it's a virtual world or something, right? But even if that did happen, that would be extremely concerning for probation. And again, to raise the issue that I have a child now, so let me off probation for a crime that I committed against children when I'm not totally rehabilitated, is not the greatest argument in the world. Maybe you don't want to raise that red flag, say now there's a child involved. And I can't help but believe that, if probation, and I'm sure probation got this information well ahead of time, they didn't accept any of this stuff. Maybe he couldn't provide any proof or of all, because we're delving into the baby aspect of this thing. The other thing that people keep talking about is, to what degree does a lawyer is a lawyer required to validate or to check out the information that his client's given him? And again, a lawyer's required to diligently represent somebody, zealously represent somebody. But when you're giving out personal information, stuff like that, if I'm doing an intake on a client or something, I'm not going to say, how many children you have and what are their names. I'm not going to say, can you prove that these are your children? I'm not going to do that. To a certain extent, you got to take a leap of faith. This lawyer, I think, is really, really stepping on the line here, of possibly ethical issues. I don't know, but for him to know Lorne the way he has a history with Lorne. This is not somebody who just got appointed and just did an intake with him and accepted everything he said at face value. He has reason to suspect that Lorne is lying, because he has a history of that. So I think there is some level of, authentication that may have been required here. And the other thing is, this whole case is relying upon Lorne. And if this does go to a hearing, all of the evidence is Lorne on the stand. That's it. His witness
Well,
testimony.
if that
Okay.
happens, I'm on the Virgin Atlantic website.
But the lawyer's
and
going
I'll
to
be
let him
coming back.
go. The question is, can the lawyer, ask him a question or know that he's perjuring himself about having children, or maybe not even. Sometimes lawyers will willfully blind themselves from the truth. They not that they know it, but they're trying to avoid it in order to represent someone. I'm not going to. The client's not going to come in the office. I'm not going to say, "Did you do it?" I'm going to say, "What's your story? What's your side of the story?" And I'm going to work with that. And I'm going to show them the evidence. I'm going to say, how do you square your story with what they have as evidence against you? I'm never going to ask him if he did it, because if he ever did, I couldn't put him on the stand. I would never put him on the stand. So there's a lot of things going on here, and this case may be decided on the papers, as I said. So we may not get a hearing out of it. You never know. It seems like a slam dunk for a judge to
Let's
not
hope
waste
so.
the court's time. Yeah.
Let's just read what it says on the document, and it's very brief, so we don't have a lot to go on, and this is all we know, unless there's some intelligence knocking around we don't know about. It just says, in the meantime, Mr. Armstrong has become a father. Mr. Armstrong intends to relocate to be with his baby and the mother of his child. That's all that was written about this.
There was another section too, I think, where he says he's the father or something. Where'd it go?
Yeah, I think you're right. But there's there's no other information that helps us. There's no context. I mean, not that there's nothing to further that we can gain from it to give us a clue. Now, I don't know where to start with this. This is first of all, I think
the million theories.
I think we have to just basically set a bit of context in that he could be. Let's go through the scenarios of what this could be. So number one, let's just say that he could very well be lying. I don't think that he is, but he could be bald-faced lying, and he's so he doesn't have to be any proof at this stage, does the dude? He doesn't have to have provided his lawyer with a DNA test, or look, there's the baby and it was born with a Boston cap on.
Yeah, the lawyer would say, look, they're going to call you on that. Just be prepared, all right? I can't help you. I'm doing what... See, that's the other thing about, when you represent somebody like this, any client, they set the goals, but you set the strategy. You always do that. So in this particular case, again, I think I would have exercised independent judgment and said, I really don't want to put it in there until you prove to me that that's true. Everybody knows your history. You can't just have a family in like a split second like that. I need more. Give me their names, or at least where they reside or something.
But the point is, it could be bald-faced lying.
Yeah. Or he's being lied to and he believes it.
Yeah, well, that's another scenario. That's a separate scenario. But what I'm trying to say is, it is possible because we don't. None of us have any specific intelligence to suggest that this is neither true nor false. Apart from, can we just get this off the table? This story about that someone probably put in the comments of some video somewhere that someone had sex with him and he cried afterwards or something. Where did that come from?
Oh, I misremembered. So somebody was in a chat during, I think, Sundays with COD, and they said something about, Tiffany, we just saw it. Help me. They said something about they know somebody who went to see Lorne. Mm-hmm. He didn't cry after having sex. I wish he did, but they said he cried when they hugged, when they hugged for the first time. Yeah, she said somebody had sex with Lorne.
Okay. Well, that part of the story might be true, as gross as it is. But that part of the story might be true, and they may have just told him that she got pregnant.
So the point is, this was just comments made by someone. So basically this could be, it's as good as intel as reading a report of someone off Reddit. Oh yeah, that's proper evidence. So the point is, the only thing that we have is what's written here. So scenario number one is bald-faced lying to gain some kind of, obviously, I mean, it's not going to work, but this is something that we need to point out as well, just in case anybody forgets, which I don't wish to insult anybody's intelligence. This is a guy that tried to sue NBC for $80 million in a lawsuit. Yeah, that's who we're dealing with here. This is a guy that thought he was being thought he was being victimized because he was busted on his birthday and wrote female powers, and that he unintentionally traveled to the Stinghouse. This is the person that we're dealing with here. So, it is
Well,
more
one,
than
he could be
possible.
lying. He could be lying, but don't forget 1A, he could be trying to deceive too. That's part of
what I was thinking as well, as you were going through that, because if he feels like he's being harassed by the community, this lie may be a way of making him seem like he's a completely changed person now. He's not who he was before. He's a family man. He wants to go and move and be with his child and the mother to have a little family and be stable. And he just wants to be left alone, and he wants to move on with his life. So if he's lying, which Lorne again has had a history of making up really stupid lies. So
No evidence about
he
that.
could-
There's no point. Listen,
Leave
we're
the
here
man
to speak
alone.
the truth. If you want to say something as damning as that, you better have some
Yeah.
evidence, Tiffany Lockhart.
That's true. Well, I'll come up with some, definitely, and we'll go through that.
Where's
But
Wes's bully ring?
if he's right, if he is thinking that this is going to benefit him, and he's just going to throw it out there and thinking himself that nobody can ask me about this child, nobody can ask for evidence of that. Could he possibly be thinking that?
No, which is stupid. It's the stupidest thing in the world.
I
because
don't
course.
know.
Exactly,
That's what
of
probation
course
would
he
be
does, but
zeroing in on.
it isn't off that table. I think that is a genuine. I think that scenario that Tiffany's just
You could think
explained
like
is
that,
very
yeah.
possible.
Yeah, but it's the stupidest thing in the world, because what he doesn't realize is he highlighted something that probation is now deeply concerned about.
You've already said that what he's written there. Let's put the child off the table. What he's written with regard to the community he's already sort of contradicted himself. Well, not necessarily contradicts it, but he's already landed himself in the shit and not done what the judge just told him before we even get onto the child thing. It's more than possible he's that dumb that he has said this to deceive, and I think that's a really interesting concept, and I think he's more than capable of doing it. He's more than dumb enough.
And deceiving his own attorney, by the way.
Yeah,
Right.
I think he possibly would think that his attorney would never find out the truth. So therefore, what's the harm? Because I think the important thing to remember is something you always say, Tiffany, is that Lorne always thinks he's one step ahead of everybody else, and he never is.
That is true. And also, he doesn't trust the lawyers. He
Right,
doesn't.
so
He thinks
that's-
they're all working together.
Everybody's against him, aren't they? The courts, probation, his lawyers, his defense, and every
His lawyer
single
probably told
person.
him, listen, you can't lie to me. If you lie to me, the last place for the truth to be exposed is when you're on the witness stand. Trust me, I can't help you there. He's doing it. He's going to put him on the stand, and I'm just wondering who's going to, when the AUSA cross-examines him. Who is this
Yeah.
guy?
Something I should have asked, actually. Now, I know this might be a ridiculously
his
obvious question, but why does he want to be taken off probation? What is his main... What does he think he's going to benefit from it?
He doesn't want to be told what to do. He wants
right
to
of travel,
be
right of
free.
speech. Right. I can go through the
Yeah.
entire Bill of Rights for you. He gets all his rights back, first of all.
So
Right,
what
he doesn't
would
have them
change?
now. He
What
keeps
would
saying he has
fundamentally
them, but he
change
doesn't
about
have
his life if he gets taken off probation? Because
He
he'll
can
always
go
be
on
an
the
R.
internet and
drink.
Well,
drink.
he'll always be an
He
RSO,
wouldn't
won't
move,
he?
though. I don't think he'd go anywhere.
He
I
can
think-
go on
I
the
think-
internet and drink. That's what he
That's
wants to do. And those are the main things that probation is stopping him from doing.
Right. And they'll make that argument.
hmm
But
putting
he'll
him on
always
breath line.
be an RSO. So, for instance, there's certain things that he'll never be allowed to do, regardless of whether he's on probation or not.
Right. Right. We're living certain
So if-
areas.
So Shin, if they were to grant this,
Oh my God.
about I know everyone relax, don't have heart attacks, but if this were to be granted, like you said before, this has nothing to do with the RSO. So if that if he were to be removed from probation, then he would be able to file another motion to get off the RSO and throw that at the wall and see if it
That
sticks?
has a the reason for the RSO and the reason for his probation are similar, but they have total different functions too. One is to notify society. Probation doesn't do that. One is to notify society and protect society. Probation does that, but that always has to be there. He's done something that he can never take back. He's done something to prove that society needs to keep an eye on him. If you read these statutes, these registration statutes, they're pretty stringent. They're not necessarily tied to the disposition of their criminal case. They're always going to be on the registry. Some are limited, like some states, like Ohio's 10 years, which we learned about. But for the most part, once you're on lifetime, and again, he's federal too, so it's not really subject to state legislature. It's up to the feds, and it's not a popular thing to run on a platform to make the sexual offender registry less effective.
So as far as the argument that was presented here, the lawyer's talking about basically the fact that the judge has leeway to remove someone from probation after they've served 1 year. As of course, there's other criteria to that as well. That says basically, it's going to be based on the crime, and certainly what I think stops Lorne from qualifying from something like this. But do you feel like this is really just the only thing that the lawyer has to stand on? There's nothing else that he can go with. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a perfect case study in giving your lawyer absolutely nothing to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And is this a Hail Mary?
I think it's a custom. I think it's routine. He's going to do this every couple of years. So, they'll probably use the same motion and just cut and paste a new reason. Maybe at some point it'll become the only right way to really get off these things is to get probation to agree.
Yeah.
It's the only way.
So do you think that if Lorne behaved himself and he didn't go back to prison and he didn't have all of the modifications that he needed, if probation didn't have the treasure trove of reasons for him to stay, do you think that at this point, after all this time, that he would have a leg to stand on?
It depends on his progress psychologically, what's going on with all these programs.
Especially in the class, right?
Yeah, he's got. Oh, there's other things he can do to increase his merit with them. He can do things outside. He can do, I don't know, volunteer work things. There's certain things he's restricted to, but yeah, he's just because he shows. This isn't one of those things where you show up, you win.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
I would think a lot of it would be based on his progress in the class, because that's the reason he's on probation and in the class. It's not necessarily like a punishment. It's to protect the public
Society.
from him. Right. So if he doesn't progress in his class, then he's at the risk of reoffending. So if he's going to be a moron in his class, like he has been all this time, and I don't see him changing, whether it be in class or in individual therapy, then I would think that would be a huge roadblock to him getting off probation.
Something drastically changes from that psych evaluation, that will always be appended to their opposition for years to come. And they'll probably get more psych evaluations to keep validating that same psych evaluation. But that's the thing that the judge is going to look at.
I was thinking about that. Surely, with the behaviour that he's displayed that they know about since his last hearing, since when we went, dude, surely there's enough there to never take him off probation. Like, he's still can't pass rape class. He's still, they know about all the internet stuff. He's clearly not doing what probation want him to do. They've had endless problems with him. He doesn't cooperate. The only thing he has done, he doesn't drink anymore as far as we know. Like, so for instance, with regard to the Jamie and Casey calls, I've never heard him drunk on those calls once, and he suggested that he just got off it. No, I believe that's because he can't
Well, in some of those calls, though, he has expressed a desire to drink, but a fear to do so, and that's
Yeah.
something that I would use as probation. If you let this guy off, he's going to drink again.
Well, that's
And then
the,
also remember
immediately.
all of the lie detector tests that he's failed.
Right. Right. I don't know.
what's the document that you guys, you and your misdemeanors channel, the sex offenders assignment that you covered? He failed that dramatically, I would imagine.
Oh, yes.
Miserably.
Do you want to give us a quick summary on that?
Amanda James, you are the best one to do that.
Well, he never meant to do it because other people made him do it by treating him badly. His head was messed up because people used him for his money. And as long as people don't do that again, then he's not going to talk to any kids.
That's right.
That's
right. I remember that.
And it was also reminiscent of Taken Abroad as well, you know, that dramatic ending where he's going to commit murder to that woman and she's feeling sorry for him. Like something must have really happened to him to make him do that. He has elements of that as well because he had to write letters. And specifically the letter that was supposed to be from Kayla was basically saying how she's sorry for Lorne. And something must have really happened to you in order for you to do this to me.
Yeah,
that's pretty
I don't
old,
know
too,
what
isn't it?
happened to you to bring you to the point where you would do that. So
Exactly.
I can't really judge you, but I hope you live a good life.
Yeah.
I do.
Yes.
No, Winchester, polygraphs won't be admitted.
It's like when during an interrogation, like with Chris Watts, the detective asked him, so what should happen to the person who committed who took your girls? What should happen to him? And an innocent person is going to say they should get the death penalty, they should get tortured, they should, or they should get prosecuted to the fullest extent, life in prison, locked in a box forever. But a guilty person like Chris was like, I don't know, maybe life in prison. I don't know. They're hesitant to say that, that they should get a horrific punishment. That's basically what Lorne was doing with Kayla. A real victim, he's not looking at it from the perspective of somebody who was actually victimized because he doesn't see himself as a victimizer. So Kayla's not going to think, you tried to ruin my life. You really fucked me up just from the things that you did. I have to deal with this every day. I think you're evil. I think you're horrible. She's going to say, I hope you live a good life. And I don't know, something real bad must have happened to you to make you do that because you couldn't have done it just because you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So that suggests, and thanks for bringing that up, is that he's still dangerous. So if probation were going to look at him and consider a risk, because that's what this is about, risk management. Probation is like, what risk does this guy pose and how do we manage it? And probation is a way of doing that whilst they're out of prison. He ticks all the boxes that he's got the potential to reoffend, I would suggest.
Well, yeah, think about this also. If he's claiming a baby, probation would have to know who he had relations with before he has relations.
That's a good
they
point.
would have to
they need to know what's going on, don't they?
Yeah, I think probation has some information here to help us here with that. Although,
me too.
The issue is number one, how old is the girl? Pardon me?
Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted, but I'm so eager to hear what probation has to say regarding this. They must say something about the baby. They must know something. And you're right. How old is this girl? That's very important.
Yeah, they would have to have some preliminaries on this.
So how does
this could be this could be a stepchild situation. This could be
that's another scenario that we could go into. Yeah. But very quickly, can I just ask, if probation do know something more than we do, wouldn't that affect this potential scenario where he's bald-faced lying? Because surely probation would have the means to know what's really going on, because they have to keep
absolutely.
They have to.
Yeah,
so what?
I don't think he's lying.
So I'm just suggesting that it pours a little bit of water on our theory of bald-faced lies.
I don't think
Yeah,
he's
he's
lying
not
because
false-faced
he's
lying.
believing a lie. That's what I believe. By the way, read
Right.
Nettie real quick, Andrew. Read Nettie.
What sort of Neddy? Imagine if
Nettie,
Lorne got probation,
N-E-D-D-Y.
then got busted on Chris's new stick. Do you know what? If that happens, you've heard it here, guys. I will book a month off work, travel to America, do streams every day, get drunk, and Shin will be right there with me. We'll have a month-long celebration. That would be the greatest
I'll
day
be there
ever.
to bail you out, buddy.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So even though the bald-faced lies is still, because nothing's off the table, because we've been talking about this between ourselves, as you can imagine, since Wednesdays. So we spoke about it briefly. The bald-faced lie scenario is not likely, we don't think, but it's possible because this is Lorne we're dealing with. Now, scenario number 2 is that he is being misled. Which is obviously very possible. I think this is the most likely scenario in that he is being misled by somebody. Now, that there's a couple of minor deviations to this theory. So he's being misled in that he's not even impregnated anybody or even been with anybody, or he's been lied to that someone's pregnant. There's a lot of different scenarios here, and it's kind of fun to talk about because we don't know anything. And with Lorne, this is a major event. This is the biggest event that's occurred since he was last arrested. So even if he's lying, it's significant. So this is a big deal. So I think, as most people in the chat, from the comments that I've seen before the stream started and what I'm reading now, and I do believe that this is the most likely scenario. He's being catfished again to some degree and being misled to believing he has fathered someone. Now, how could you be misled if you'd never, if he's never had sex with anybody? Now, there are obviously a couple of scenarios, as unpleasant as they are to our minds. We have to delve into them a little bit. So, has he got someone pregnant? There's also a scenario that he might not have had sex with anybody, but still believes he's a biological father to someone. Now, I know that might sound fucking ludicrous, but
Not
I
in
also
Lorne world.
exactly. Even that is possible. Like he might have said, some magic fucking sperm angel impregnated some woman when you were asleep one night, or we froze. You send us your sperm in the mail. You know what I mean? He sent a
And throw it in her.
Yeah.
Possible.
It is possible.
Unlikely, though.
Yeah. Right. But, so, guys, what do you think? It's a possibility, isn't it?
Well, yes, there's a possibility. Lorne is a total moron. I don't think he's that stupid, though. That might be the only time you hear me say that. I don't think he's stupid enough to think that he can, or I don't think he would mail his sperm to somebody. Like, that's the scenario, right? Like, he mailed his sperm to someone.
Well, if he met the person already, he might,
Yeah, but if he met the person already, yeah. I think if it's a catfish, then somebody did have sex with Lorne.
Well, that's the whole point. That somebody just dragging words.
That's not a catfish, though, is it?
He's the king of condoms. Why would he have unprotected sex unless there was? I mean, let's assume that
he also wants to have a child.
So the whole purpose
to
have sex with him was okay. So if this is real, that woman's whole purpose to have sex was to have his child,
or to lie to him and tell him that she's having his child. Or
that is the most evil thing I've ever heard.
If somebody is weird enough to have sex with Lorne, who knows? I can't put my mind there.
Creating a being who has to learn that this is his father and growing up in a world like that.
Let's go into
most
that.
Cruel thing in the world.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a bit, but let's just explore this scenario first, that he's being misled. So the most likely scenario of this whole thing is that catfishing is involved, in my opinion, is that catfishing is involved to some degree. Lorne has never had a relationship with a female outside. Well, He's never had a proper relationship with a female.
This isn't within the normal context. We've got people who are part of this community who we can't really account for with their mental health, and they would do something like that. This isn't a normal
Yeah, there's
context.
some
We're meeting people.
weirdos.
Well, the Canadian
Yeah, we
couple
may have
went
well
to
got
his
him laid.
house and, fooled around on his bed and pretended that, I mean, that went beyond the boundaries of trolling him, in my opinion. I
Sue
think.
fucked his brother.
Huh?
His
Yeah.
drunk homeless brother. I said Sue fucked his drunk homeless brother.
Well, there you
Right.
go.
There are
After she
people
was
out there.
rejected by Lorne.
Yeah.
As well.
There are some. Never underestimate the impossible. Don't underestimate the weirdos around
No,
here.
because Lorne is in a unique situation where he does have notoriety, and people, for some reason, want to leave some mark on that for themselves. It's weird. That's like, almost like the, falling in love with a death row inmate or something, sending letters, you're going to find people like that.
Yeah, we'll go in. Yeah, we'll discuss that a little bit in detail. But I also think it's possible that he is saying this because, let's put this scenario forward, that he is being catfished. The catfish is saying she's pregnant, like Jamie said she might have been, and he is the honorary father of the
Yeah.
child.
I think that's a
Are you with me?
possibility too.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that could be it too. Or she is a single mother, and he is just going to take ownership of the baby, and now he calls it his child. It's like he called himself daddy with Rhoda. Could be something similar to that.
I think that is definitely up there as the top scenario, being.
Which is a basis to have the child removed from her.
Yeah, well, I mean.
Yeah, I agree. Any woman who's going to expose her children to pedophiles
As a
doesn't deserve to have
paternal
children.
figure. As a paternal figure of all things.
Especially, yeah.
So, with regard to the not
To have
being.
the child removed.
But so we're getting into the realms of being like this being a real person now, aren't we? I just can't make that leap at the minute that this isn't entirely fabricated. I suppose it's because, with regard to Lorne's love life, if you call it a love life, I'll just call it that because, that's all he's had since, for the last. How long ago was it Ramona first catfished him? When was that? 2016.
2017.
7 years ago, 8 years ago, yeah.
Right. So for 8
God.
years, all I've ever known about Lorne is catfish relationships. It's basically fabricated relationships for the amusement of us lot. It's funny. Sorry. But basically.
And then even before then as well.
Yeah, of course. But I suppose what I was trying to say is that it's, from a personal perspective, it's very difficult for me to make that leap from this illusory internet nonsense to a real scenario. So I'm going through all these scenarios where he's lying, he's being lied to, it's a fabrication, he's like making a bit of a leap. But even like the stepchild thing is just too much for me to wrap my brain around. I think it's because I've never once considered the possibility that he will ever get a real relationship. Now, we all know, I don't think any of us here on this stream, and I don't think many, if any, in the chat are not that naive to believe that there aren't crazy people around. There would be some person somewhere, like you've just said, who was this Sue character anyway? Was it someone from the community?
It was a woman who would watch the all the Lorne videos and comment on them under her real name, making fun of Lorne, calling him a loser, calling him fat and ugly and all kinds of stuff. And she was writing to him, sending him pictures of herself, befriending him. So he called her. I think he called her because he was mad at Jamie. So they started up a friendship. So she, on one side, is watching these videos and laughing about it, and on the other side, she's writing to him, and took it far beyond catfishing. Well, it's not catfishing when you use your real name and go sleep with his brother, and basically live with his mother for a month or whatever. She was there for a long time in Cornville.
And stole money.
What?
She stole
From
Yeah,
who?
from his mother. She asked Lorne's mother if she could borrow money to get her vehicle fixed. And the last anybody heard that I know of, she never paid that money back.
And that is a perfect example, and thanks for that background, is that just in case we needed sort of reminding, there are completely crazy people out there that will sleep with Lorne, that will have a child with him. There's women out there, I suppose, from a personal perspective, until we're going through it now, and it's something that we have to consider. It's not really been a reality for me because it just, you know, we listen to how crazy he is, and we can only judge it from our own values and our own vantage point. Then you have to sort of go beyond that, and you think about the people that you may have come across in your personal life, true crime that you may have watched, any professional line of work that you might be in. There's some people out there whose values are nowhere near ours. They have no self-respect. They have no sense of responsibility. They will have sex with anybody that possesses the relevant genitalia. That's just the way it is. And so we have to suggest
we should brace. We should just all brace as a community, just in case this is true. Let's just have the idea that there is a possibility that this could be true, and then, you know, just so we don't jump off that ledge when it happens, when we find out it's true. I mean, let's just brace ahead of time, stand for the possibility that could be true to whatever degree. So don't just totally dismiss it. Unfortunately, I fucking hate that, but still. There are people, you're right, Andrew, there are people in this community who can ruin this whole thing, actually, and they don't give a shit as long as they get their stamp on this whole thing.
Yeah, and Jennifer Lewis has just said something that highlights what we're talking about in a very real way, is that Ted Bundy had fans. I never forget going to a tattoo parlor and some guy had his tattoo on his foot. Oh, I liked him. I was like, I mean, this is a guy. It wasn't a sexual. Well, I suppose it could have been. I was like, what a very strange thing. It's like, saying that though, I did put a Lorne hat on once during a video. Isn't it the same thing? But you get the point is, people. There's women out there that idolize these people. It's just bizarre. It's just absolutely bizarre. And what's frightening about this is there's a potential child in the mix. Now, Lorne is just too dumb and desperate and lonely to consider that he shouldn't ever be fathering a child. I mean, I suppose it could have been an accident, but we know, given the opportunity, he'd have a child, because didn't he want one with Jamie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we think
he just wants that. He just wants to cement his, you know, that somebody in the world loves him. That's what his mother was for all these years. And by the way, somebody mentioned something interesting in the comments. He wants to relocate and leave his mother, who apparently has, you know, in remission, out of remission with cancer, I guess. I don't even know if she's alive anymore.
Yeah, he was going to leave his mother and move to California for Casey. He was going to leave his dogs.
Exactly.
He's so desperate for a woman. He'll leave anything and anyone. That's his top priority. I'm not surprised he'd leave his mother at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to leave and move down with Ramona as well. I think with everybody, he doesn't have a problem with leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So, scenario number 3 or whatever it is. So with, you know, it could be bald-faced lying. It could be being misled. It could be a half-truth. Like, there could be a stepchild. He could be in a catfish relationship. It's all over the phone. He believes this person is real, and he's being told that there's a child that is basically his without him have had sex. Like, it could be he's been told some crazy story about how aliens abducted him and made him impregnate, you know, some stupid fucking story. And or it could be, you know, I've just had this baby to somebody else, but it's yours. You know,
I don't know. I just think I don't think he would. He's dumb as hell, but that's for certain. But I don't think he would do this without being prepared to prove it.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
think
know
he's
why.
lying. No,
Hmm?
I don't think he's just outright
Maybe I'm,
lying.
yeah, maybe I'm
Something's
assuming he's a
going
normal
on.
person. Yeah,
Something
but
fishy is going on. Because do you remember not long ago on the Temple, they were talking about Lorne's baby registry? And the registry was obviously a joke. It was like a Walmart baby registry, and there was
I never knew that. That's funny.
yeah, yeah. It was I don't know, a few months ago, I think, at this point. But it was a teacup. It was like ham cubes were on the registry and coffee or something. You know what I mean? It was clearly a joke. But
Yeah.
what a coincidence. You know
How
what I
long ago
mean?
was that?
I don't know, a few months ago. Somebody tell me in the chat. Somebody.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and everybody blew it off, and they're like, "Oh, this is bullshit." Because somebody was saying, "Lauren's having a baby. Here's the baby registry. Lauren's getting married and is having a baby," and
Yeah.
everybody thought it was bullshit. I don't know. I didn't look deeply into it either. I thought it was a joke, a bad one at that, because
Yeah.
it
Or
was
maybe
very
baby
obvious.
Lorne kind of thing or something.
Yes.
Jennifer, the docket says that the opposition memorandum has to be submitted by the 28th. It could be done earlier. You never know. That is, we're going to find all the information out that probation knows about this, about the baby thing. We're going to know everything. I have a feeling that's going to be uh, much more of a blockbuster than we think. That document, it's going to tell us everything about his progress, everything that he's done. Who knows? Things that we didn't know, that those missing 2 years that we don't know about, we're going to get filled in on, I think. So I think that's going to be a great stream once we get that document.
So potentially some crazy desperate person from the community, from the internet, has struck up a relationship with Lorne, and there's a real child that's been born, which means that when was the last communication he had with Blue Boy as Casey? It was only about 12 months ago, wasn't it?
November 22.
Oh, I think so, because remember he said, you've less than a year and I'm going to come after all of you.
Yeah, that was like, he replied, didn't he? He said, "Oh, I'm going to jail tonight." I think it was about a year ago.
Yeah, I think it was.
So
I think it was November 22.
Right, so let's say 18 months, right? The point is, within 18 months, he's got to have met someone, impregnated them, and they've given birth. So what are the odds that Lorne's somehow managed to get someone pregnant during an 18-month period?
And keep in mind, the document doesn't say she's pregnant. It says the baby has arrived.
Yes.
Exactly,
yeah,
which means there was a short window, which means that, in my opinion, it seems that it makes the real thing quite unlikely.
Mama Gwen is knitting baby Trevor a onesie. Mama Gwen is knitting baby Lorne a pecker pouch right now.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Yeah. So he's got to have basically conceived a child in pretty much immediately after getting catfished, and then the baby is born, and here we are. Because, like you say,
when do those people visit? When do those people visit?
That's the point as well. Because
Canadian people,
wouldn't they have known?
They visited multiple times.
Yeah, but when was their first visit? The prepperettes or whoever they are.
I don't know.
Blue Boy would know. We should crunch some numbers on this thing, but it's still possible, Andrew.
I think the timeline isn't in his favor, but if we're going to look at this as being real, I think that there's a lot of very strange, not coincidences, but it's like, right, he met someone straight away, started having sex with them, they got pregnant, child's been born. Fuck, come on. And Lorne's, it's just, the more I'm thinking about this, the more I think it's fucking nonsense.
Yeah, it's all too perfect in from Lorne's perspective.
Well,
I think.
Here's what we know about Lorne. He would absolutely Okay, so let's pretend that this is what happened. He started talking to some weirdo from the internet that knows about him from YouTube, from TCAP. They actually went to see him because they're weird. They actually had sex with him because they're disgusting and insane. And then this is their idea of a catfish, of a troll, having sex with Lorne. So they lied to him and said, "Oh, Lorne, I'm pregnant. I had your baby," but they're long distance, right? So I'm sure they could come up with some reason why he can't be there. Remember, there was the request to go to Canada, though.
Yes. I was thinking about that as well. And from what we know, because all we saw was the government's response saying they didn't oppose that.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened with that?
I
Don't
think the
know.
government didn't oppose it because they knew he couldn't get in.
Right. Sure, absolutely. But I
You know,
wonder what happened with that.
Don't know.
you mean
But-
whether he actually went,
Yeah.
or whether the motion was withdrawn because he couldn't go? Because it's gone now. The motion's not there anymore on the docket.
Well, the motion's not there. Oh, you mean their approval of it as well isn't there?
Yeah, the reference to the at least that's what somebody's. I thought I looked at it briefly, but somebody also confirmed that it was no longer there. I thought it was you who told me that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's just a moot motion right now. I mean, it's just sitting there. I mean, I don't know whether he went.
If someone lied to Lorne, if someone told Lorne, "I'm pregnant, I had your baby," and Lorne has never laid eyes on that baby in real life, never been in the same room, no DNA test, nothing, just going on the word of the woman that he is in love with, he would absolutely tell probation, "I had a baby, we had a fucking baby," with, you know what I mean? Like, we know
Yeah.
that.
And the fact that he had sex really, really drives it home that this is true in his mind.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
this is different than the other times.
Mm-hmm.
How long ago was it that he made that request to go to Canada? Roughly.
I thought it was around the same time that baby registry thing popped
It
up.
was a few months ago. It was.
A few
Oh,
months,
it's right
yeah,
here.
earlier this year.
Right.
Meets
So
them January 22, January 2024. You request travel, and what's wedding gift registry release? What is that?
Yeah, that's what they said he had was it a baby registry or a wedding registry? I don't
Says
know. I
wedding.
don't go on the temple, but okay, so they were saying he was getting married, but there was also mention of a baby. I remember that for sure within
Mhm.
that registry conversation.
So that narrows the timeline even more.
William Fetters brings up another good point. He also tried to sell his land around that time.
all the pieces are coming together now, aren't they?
That was great.
Yeah, so, right, let's make... I don't think moving to Canada, the sale of his property is just... It's not a coincidence. It's all connected. So
Right.
I think I'd like to make the assumption that it's connected to this Canadian couple. He wants to move to Canada. They visited him. We know they were there. Is it possible that this female has either conned Lorne into thinking that he's had sex with her or has had sex with him? Oh, that
I don't think they could con him into thinking he had sex with her. I
could
don't
have
think
been
he's
blind
that dumb.
drunk.
Well, but he's not drinking now.
He's not drinking.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
that's true.
know.
So, is it possible this woman? Because I didn't like the look of them, to be honest. Is it possible this woman's had sex with him for a laugh?
Well, let me ask you,
Prepperette?
that woman.
I don't think it's Prepperette. She's married. Her husband
right.
went.
That's what I'm asking. Did they introduce her to somebody else?
That's what I'm
Introduce him?
wondering too. Yep.
Yeah.
Did they have a tag along?
No, I don't think so, but I do think it's possible that she like hooked Lorne up with one of her friends or something. She said he was a nice guy, nice enough to go spend Thanksgiving with him and his family. She said his sexuality was none of her business. I wouldn't put it past her at all. Because what is going on in Canada? Because how much of a coincidence is
water, I guess.
this baby's mother here? We're going to assume Canada has something to do with it. The Prepperettes are from Canada. Sue's from Canada, but I think that's unrelated. But I don't think it's unrelated.
That could be total bullshit too. I mean, part of
What
their troll could have been to send them up to Canada where they weren't. Who knows?
could be, but they
This-
also traveled from Canada to Maine to see
Well,
him.
how does he know where they came from?
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
That's true.
Canada seems to be thrown around a lot in this community, which is cool. But
Oh, you're saying that they weren't from Canada after all? That it was part of the troll job of turning up? 'Cause
well,
all we
there's
know
no
is-
confirmation of any of these things.
No, you're
The only
right.
thing we
It's a
know,
good
I saw
point.
I saw the photograph of the woman on the bed with him. That didn't look like anything to me. They were fully clothed and, you know, whatever.
No.
She also didn't look like that was Lorne's type at all. I would assume he wants them in their 20s and, you know, whatnot.
Oh, he'd
Um,
take that woman. He'd take her in a heartbeat.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. I think he would. You're
Who the
forgetting about
husband wants.
Winnie.
Oh, nice.
But I don't think he would want a girlfriend with a husband. I think he would be
No,
Well,
he
doing
won't
unless
be
he
able
could
to
screw
handle
over the
that.
husband somehow.
I don't know. It's all so confusing.
So are we saying no? We think that it's connected to the Canadian couple, but not that woman, but potentially a friend of hers. So that means this friend of hers must have travelled to see Lorne. They must have hooked up. So
Or Lorne got permission to go to Canada, and for some weird reason he got in and met her there. You never know. Well, no, you know, we could speculate all we want about. There's so many things to speculate about. There's so many different theories and so many different paths and crossroads. You know, we'll know everything on the 28th when that motion comes in.
will
But
we
it's fun
though?
to
Will they tell us whether he is a father or not? Will that document
I think they'll
confirm or
have to get
deny?
into it. They'll probably have to talk about how he had to verify her age for their approval. You know, something in there. It's got to be said. You can't just impregnate somebody, say he impregnated somebody, without probation clearing them first.
Well, you would think that they would bring it up just for the fact that if their job is to protect the public and Lauren does have a child, him getting off probation now would be the very worst time
Right.
to have him unsupervised, because if he has a child, then he is going to have the potential to be around children, of course.
Right. That's another tone deaf. All of his arguments are tone deaf. Every one of them.
I know. I'm a sex offender. I'm a pedophile, but I just had a baby, so stop watching me.
Yeah, and people harassing me because I care about what they think about me online. That's basically what he's saying. And you're right, Dr. Burt. This is all coming from Lorne. This is Lorne's perspective right now.
Exactly. We have to remember that as we go through
Yeah.
these scenarios. This is just a couple of sentences that Lorne's told someone to put in a document. That's all it is. This is from the most unreliable, stupid, gullible, pathetic, desperate person we've ever known. Sorry if there is a real Lorne's child out there. I probably don't want to hear this, but obviously not going to be language.
Well, and if the idea is to troll the community, fine, you won, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we're not asked about that. I mean, it's like, right, okay, you led us down a path and we're talking about, you know, whatever. But there is another scenario that we've not, that someone who genuinely likes Lorne that isn't part of the internet has had a relationship with him. Nah, that's bollocks.
Yeah, I think that's the most unlikely.
Yeah,
Another
if
blow
it
to
has
Lorne.
something to do with the internet. Just because all of the things that have come out, it's too coincidental.
It seems like it's more likely he may have had sex, but it's very unlikely she got pregnant from it.
Well, that's what we're hoping.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
That's what
hoping
I'm hoping.
the whole thing's he didn't have sex. That's otherwise he loses his magic.
Yeah. No, we've gone over I can't really think of any other scenario. So there's like him lying, he's being misled. It's kind of a half truth. Then he's been trolled. There's an imaginary pregnancy. There's a stepchild involved. There's a child that he's never met that he believes that he's fathering. I think that is a likely scenario. There is potentially. I cannot make that leap. My instinct, everything about my instincts is telling me that this is bollocks, complete nonsense, and I don't even think it's a stepchild. I think.
Well, I don't think it's a real child. I think he thinks he's a stepfather.
So that means he's being catfished then.
Right. That's
right.
I'm leaning in that direction. What about you guys?
Yeah, let me ask everybody.
Catfish, but the catfish could have gone too far.
Oh.
What do you mean? Do you want to? Sorry, I don't know what you mean.
Had sex with him, essentially, right?
Yeah. That's what I think could have happened.
So is that if you was to make a snap judgment now? This is just a bit of fun because we've got a couple of Lorne sentences to go off and a little bit of intelligence with regard to him selling his house, the Canadian couple, him asking to relocate. What do you if you had to make a bet now? What would you say is the most likely scenario?
Well, either he had his lawyer sort of intentionally try to phrase it vaguely, and he's playing the stepfather thing, like we said, or some fucking sick weirdo from the community went and had sex with Lorne and told him that she was pregnant and she had his baby. I don't think there's a real baby, or if there is a real baby, I don't think it's Lorne. That would be that's what I would bet on.
Which one though, Amanda? Which one? They're totally different scenarios. Which one? You got to pick.
I kind of think maybe the latter.
Oh,
because the former, would he say that in a legal document? Clearly, anybody reading that is going to.
He was vague, like you said. He was vague, though. It could be a stepfather.
Nothing is off the table with Lorne. Nothing.
All it said is he's recently become a father and the mother of his baby. So it's vague. You could become a father by sort of symbolically or, I don't know, not legally adopting a child.
We narrowed it down to those scenarios. I think those are the two most logical ones. What do you think, guys? You think Andrew, do you think out of all those scenarios you laid out, Amanda's two are probably the most likely? I do.
Yeah, I do. I don't have any. That's exactly what I would have said. I think it's some form of deception is involved to him. Mm-hmm. I think that he's been put in a scenario and he's running with it. I don't think there's a real child involved. I don't think, no matter how crazy somebody is, they would bring his child into this world. It could happen, though. We know you know more than any of us here. And I think we're all people of the world. We're all. That's a lifelong commitment to that troll. Yeah, but dude, people don't think. These people don't think like that. There's people in this country that have children just to get extra benefits, to get put in a bigger house, to get one over on their exes, for all these kind of ridiculous scenarios. So that's the third scenario. Somebody got pregnant in order to get on public assistance. That's great. No, dude.
People do it every day.
Yeah.
People do that which is the dumbest thing you can do. Having a baby is not a way
Lorne's
to make
though?
money. Yeah. No, I don't think anybody would have Lorne's kid for money.
For that. I mean, you could make it a lot less painless, right?
Yeah, you could have sex with the homeless guy outside the 7-Eleven.
Right?
Yeah. I know, it's very disturbing. I'm disturbed just thinking about it. It would be a funny catfish, though, if he's the stepfather thing and he's telling his lawyer and all of probation that he's a father and it turns out to be another catfish. That would be funny.
All would be forgiven if the catfish came out and we discovered that Lorne never had sex with any of them and they pulled a great catfish like this. All would be forgiven, in my mind.
But yeah, if you don't actually have sex with
all the calls and all the videos we would get, all the calls we would get, all the emails we would get, all the text messages.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Tiffany, what would you? We spoke about this briefly earlier, and you changed your mind a little bit. Do you have what do you think the most likely scenario is?
I think the most likely is that somebody did meet him. They did have sex or some form of that. and they told him that they were pregnant.
You always hurt me.
Yeah,
And
we're on the same
magically,
page.
yeah, magically she got pregnant. I mean, because Lorne isn't going to quite understand that you can't just have unprotected sex and get pregnant. I mean, there has to be
I mean,
ovulation. There's timing
yeah.
involved. So it doesn't just happen on any given day. There's like a window of time. So I think that they did meet him, and I think that they told him that there was a child, and I think going that route isn't going to be difficult, as long as the sex happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is very likely. I mean, because there are a ton of stories where people have faked pregnancy,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be even and they've done it in person. So it would be even easier for someone to do it who's from far away and is able to fake photos and all of that kind of stuff. It's not difficult. If there was a baby that was allegedly born, they could easily fake that too.
Yeah.
But
It'd
in
be
your
even more
scenario,
funny if it was an AI baby.
Would that look like
But
one? In your scenario, is the baby already born, or is she still pregnant?
probably born at this point.
So he'd want to hear from her,
But
the baby, right?
He
And
said
I guess
yeah,
they
recently
would
sure. I mean,
fathered
but
a
that would be
child,
so
didn't he?
easy. Yeah, it
Yeah, the
would.
baby is
Right.
born.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the case.
You know what would tell us everything? If we knew how old the baby was.
If we
Well,
knew anything more, we
I know. We're
need
just
more.
gonna
Yeah, I
say,
know. I
Eddie,
know.
Yeah.
if the baby existed, it'd be a good thing. What do you think is the most likely scenario, Shin?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I I agree with Amanda and Tiffany. I mean, although
Agree
Tiff,
with them both.
well, Amanda gave two options, and I think she
Right,
chose
but
the first one, and Tiffany chose the second one. I'm going to choose
no, I
the
chose
first
the
one.
second one. I
Okay,
think
then I'm going
it's
to choose
more
the first
likely
one.
that he
I'm going
had
to choose the
sex
first one. I
and
think
the
it's a
baby's
stepfather
alive.
situation.
I
think
think
it's yeah. I mean, he would eat that up, and then suddenly he'd be rehabilitated because he got that status. But I'm hoping it's not the other situation, but I'm prepared if it is. But if it isn't, and it is a stepfather situation, and he never had sex, like I said, I want to see all those calls. I want to see all those videos. I want to see everything. I'm a little PO'd about the fact that they kind of screwed up the earlier trolls, but that being said, I still want to see it.
Oh yeah, Jesus. That would seem like the most. I think the most likely scenario is he's not had sex with somebody, and he basically believes he's now a stepfather. He's now taking parental responsibility of a child.
That's most consistent. Yeah, that's most consistent with his history that we all know about it. But the problem is that variable that we can't, that is uncontrollable, is the environment, the people who come to him. We don't know what they're all about. We can predict that Lorne is getting catfished and all that based on what we know about him. But these unknowns out there, that's what's screwing things up.
I think something to that. Even for Lorne, this is a big thing to come out with, the fact that he's now a father. Now, this doesn't diminish his kind of intelligence levels in any way, or sort of, because we know how dumb he is. It doesn't really change anything. But even for him to come out with this, he's going to know that surely there's going to be some form of checks, things like that. So it's kind of a big deal for him to come out with this. So there is a strong possibility. There is a possibility that this child exists in some form. So that leads us to the possibility. Well, first of all, Cat G's just asked if there is a child, what are his chances of getting off probation? Now, it shouldn't really. Would that change? Would it change the probation?
No, that would make them more concerned, I think.
That's what I thought.
And keep an eye on him, especially now, because he's got to go through all these classes and shit, and she does too. Right. And they got to set guardians, supervisors around him, around the baby. They got to make sure that these people are trained, the normal people in his life, like his mother would be one, probably his girlfriend or whoever that is. So they have to do a lot of setup. He can't just leave probation without getting prepared for life.
So all of that all of that safeguarding with guardians and all of that, would that have to do with his RSO status being forever and him not being able to get off of that? Or if he's removed from probation, does that somehow make those things not applicable?
Yeah, there are exceptions. The judge can fashion orders, you know, if they'll put them through probably some kind of a conditional phase where they have monitors and everything else, and they'll issue reports to probation, and probation to determine whether, you know, the child's at risk. You know, after a certain, it would take probably a few years for that to happen. I mean, they would just make an instant decision. All right, you're father now. We trust you. You can be alone with this baby. No,
Yeah, well, the motion is saying effective immediately.
yeah. So yeah, Kat. I mean, the fact that the baby is here really screws up his case.
So that makes it even more funny if Lorne
know.
thinks that knows that this is a lie and he's
That and what
screwing
he's
himself over.
not heeding Judge Woodcock's
But
advice.
that's exactly what he'd do, isn't it? That because he always screws himself over when he thinks he's getting one over. Like the psych report being the perfect, you know, he spent money to get this report done that said, yeah, you are a pedo, and then he gave it to Casey without reading it. That has got to be the stupidest thing a human being has ever done. And Johnny Utah has pointed out something that I was thinking of. I mentioned it to you on the phone, Tiffany, is that Lorne looks really depressed in his last RSO photo. If he was getting laid or had sex, shouldn't he be in a better mood?
I think he's just ugly.
You would think so. Oh.
I thought that was an old photo. They just recycled an old
but he
photo.
was still miserable in his other photos.
He looked really upset. Yeah.
I know, but he's going to get his picture taken to put on the RSO. Who's going to be happy?
Yeah, but in his other photographs, he's smirking.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to say. If you compare it to his other
Maybe
photographs.
he was fighting with his girlfriend. Maybe she was messaging other guys that day.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I think another scenario I've just thought of, part of the catfishing is that they've paid a working girl to go and have sex with Lorne, and then they can claim he's a father.
Well, I think that that was actually part of those comments that were being left on the stream, or the comment that was left in the comment section of that stream that is no longer there. But I think they were alluding somehow that this was a sex worker.
That's a distinct possibility, I think.
Wow, that's dedication.
It sure is, yeah.
It's more likely than someone actually having sex with Lorne of their own free will for no financial gain.
Could be. The whole thing is just so unfathomable to me.
That's what makes it fun to talk about.
The impression that I got was that this wasn't a transaction that was made with a sex worker, but that this person just happened to be doing that, and she was somehow involved with the community.
Oh, so she's a hooker, but wasn't charging Lorne?
Correct. It wasn't that her doing that was a transaction. It was that she was doing this as part of
for a troll
or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You know, I would say that's crazy. That's insane. But and it is crazy and insane, but that doesn't mean that it's unbelievable to me. Like I wouldn't struggle to believe that, because some people are just so weird in this community.
And plus that's just a comment as well. There was nothing else that has ever happened since then. So there's no way to know.
No, I know. But again, doesn't it all just seem really coincidental that these comments pop up about Lorne having sex and then suddenly there's a baby?
Yeah.
Can we imagine a scenario? I mean, can we imagine all the scenarios? I don't think we can. There could be a chance that, you know, when that response comes out and we're totally blindsided by everything, a lot of things that we didn't even talk about. But is that a possibility, you think, in this situation? I think we covered them all. I mean, but there is that slight chance that we're way off base and there's a lot of information we don't know.
Well, I think the only thing that
me the most would be to find out that he met an actual woman through some avenue other than the community they met and are actually dating and have a baby.
Right.
That's what would blindside me more than anything else.
Right.
I
Right.
agree.
It would, but I think that is a possibility
Right.
because there's a
Well,
lot
we
of
threw that in there, so I'm trying
Yeah.
to. Do we include everything?
So that leads us nicely to something that we need to touch upon in this video. Is let's just put this scenario forward that there is a real Lorne is a genuine biological father, that there is a son or daughter. It's clearly this child is clearly got a not very well adjusted mother and certainly a not very well adjusted father, which is a very distressing thought for us all, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
it's just depressing to even think about.
It
so
is.
let's just go because we can't make let's just
I'll go one step further. I would feel responsible. Almost.
I was gonna point that out in that
Sorry.
if that's true. Well, no, sorry. No, you said it just because I think I was gonna say the same.
Please
No.
finish the thought.
I think I was gonna say the same thing as you. Which just carry on with that thought of yours.
Well, it's just a quick blurb. I mean, we gave him the notoriety, and we gave him, we made him popular to wackos like that. Essentially, if none of that happened, he would still be in his gulag in excuse me, Cornville. But that's why I feel somewhat responsible for shining a light on
I
him.
felt like that. It's like, have we created this scenario that's actually happened?
Nah.
Well, it's possible.
Nah, I don't think we're responsible. If some psycho went and had sex with him after all the
Well, we're not directly responsible, obviously.
Well, no, after what we have done, or the catfish and the community in general, has exposed him for the freak he is and the shitbag he is. If they decide, despite that, to go have sex with him, that's on them. Just by bringing attention to somebody.
No, I understand that.
I mean,
you
I
can't
guess,
account for
but-
everybody. You don't have. You have all these unintended consequences you can't be responsible for. I get that.
No, you're right.
I do.
It's just
but it's a fact. But it's a fact. If this Lorne wasn't popular, he'd be home alone. Just like Enter the Codverse. I mean, who said that? William.
No, I don't accept responsibility at all for any
No,
of
I
it.
feel responsible. There's a little difference. I mean, I feel like.
No, I don't even feel responsible.
I think it's
No.
one of those grey areas where we're not responsible because, as Amanda James very rightly said, we have painted. Well, all of us have painted him in a very negative light. Nobody said this guy's great, go and have sex with him, or even it's this is the guy, and it's not like. It was all done in the form of entertainment. We enjoy doing these videos and kind of going into the psychology of it. Yeah, we get fun out of it, entertainment and all that. But as Amanda James just said, if some weirdo decides to turn all that on its head, because there's always going to be people that are going to do reckless things. There's always going to be people that take situations the wrong way for their own twisted benefit. And we can't be responsible for that. But at the same time, it's kind of a paradox because without this community, they wouldn't have existed. But yet, you could say that about anything. You could say it about like a Netflix show, a documentary, a book. Oh, I know about this person because of a book. I'm going to fuck them and have their kid. It's the same.
I know you can't.
thing.
You can't. I mean, there's possibilities. There's endless. Don't.
But it was a good question to bring up.
Or without all the attention, he could have blended in quietly in Cornville, and people would forget about To Catch a Predator. He wasn't one of the most memorable predators on the show.
That's not why he's weird. That's not why he's just
No,
weird
I know.
in general.
No, I know. I'm saying
I don't think people in Cornville know that he was part of that show. I think he's always been this kind of weird pariah around town. That's
you're probably right. But let's pretend for a minute that he's at the yard sale and he's friendly to some woman. She thinks he's goofy and weird, but he's kind of a nice guy. She goes home and Googles him and she's like, holy shit, I dodged a bullet. without the attention that we've given him, maybe he could have blended in and people wouldn't know what has been put out there. I doubt that has happened. I doubt anybody has met Lorne and cared enough to Google him. But
well, yeah, but he doesn't make friends. He doesn't. Nobody.
No.
He never leaves his name with somebody, I'm sure. But take a look at what Webbs wrote about the responsibility. I will not climb a responsibility ladder that I know I didn't fucking earn.
Yeah, we didn't.
Right.
Right.
That's the way Tiffany feels.
He's spot on.
Yeah. No, I mean, just like with what Andrew was saying, you can say that about anything. There could be somebody on the news and, just because then something happens after the fact, that somebody happened to watch that and something happened with them, that means that the news is responsible.
Right.
Nothing about,
Yeah.
and just like what you were saying as well, Amanda James, nothing that's been put out there has been sympathetic to Lorne or making him appear better than what he is. It's always been really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
You made me feel better, Tiffany. Thank you.
Yeah, she always does. I think that's the key, what Amanda James said. It's like he's not been portrayed in any kind of positive light. So if somebody takes it upon themselves through negativity to do that, then it's totally on them. You can't be responsible for people's fucked up value systems.
You can't appeal to everyone.
The only way it would have been that there would have been some responsibility is if we misled people into thinking he's great. Now, one might make the argument, because I've had a lot of criticism over the years for giving Lorne a bit of leave, like not being hard enough on him. And it's just an opinion. It doesn't really change anything. It's not like I'm responsible for his probation or out. But even that, I don't think that even what I say is no one's going to listen to what readings of the chat log and go, oh yeah, well Andrew Burkett thinks he's all right. I'm going to go and have a kid with him. Like it's not even,
No, anyone who's familiar with him through YouTube and still chooses to interact with him in any way other than purely a troll to make his life miserable is fucked up. It makes it so much worse that people like Sue and the Canadian couple, they watched it all. They heard it. They listened to the Rhoda call. I mean, I don't know that they listened to it, but I'm going to assume everybody has. They heard that and still decided they wanted to be friends with Lorne. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
It's like a teammate. It's like a teammate shooting on his own goal.
So let's just ponder for a minute that Lorne is a real father. Tiffany, to you first, because we had a conversation about this a few days ago, and you started to get all four of us were talking, and you started to get quite mad and angry at the possibility that someone actually was irresponsible enough to have a child with Lorne, weren't you? I mean, it isn't funny, but
Yeah, I mean, the actual thought of knowing who Lorne is, and he's already proven who he is and how dangerous he is to someone who's vulnerable, that you would actually have a child and put them in front of Lorne and also have him in your home, have him be a father figure. That's awful. I mean, I watch a lot of true crime, and the things that people do to their own children is sickening. It's heartbreaking to imagine the types of homes that people are born into, as innocent babies, and they have parents who don't give a shit. That there are women who do not give a single shit about the fact that they're bringing somebody dangerous into their home around their kids and really allowing and inviting the abuse to happen. I think that the world is dangerous enough already with all the things that are unknown. But when you know that someone is a danger and they've done this before, to be able to put that aside and make excuses and justifications and listen to them and think, Lorne laughs at jokes. He's a pretty nice guy, I guess, if you were to meet him out on the street. He made a mistake. So therefore, we're going to look past that and say everyone deserves a second chance. So that second chance
don't.
is going to absolutely, and I agree with that. They don't deserve a second chance.
Mhm.
They've already proven themselves to be
Not when it
dangerous.
comes
So
to
why would
children.
you? Right? Why would you test
Mhm.
that? Why would you put him in a situation where he's going to be in a home with a kid, and what, you're going to wait for something to happen and then react to it?
Right. You want to test it with yourself, with your own stupid ass. Don't bring an innocent
Right.
child into don't put
Right.
them in the
I don't
home
want to
with
even
her.
think about what the kid's life is going to be like. But one of the things that bothers me about this thing is that I was hoping that Lorne's bloodline would end with him. I didn't want him breeding at all. I didn't want him extending any more of his DNA out there, creating potential monsters or whatever. And it's kind of sad where we we don't want to label babies like that, because I feel more compassion and sympathy for this baby, knowing that what he has for a father, she has for a father, than anything else. But I wanted his bloodline to end. Period. Kind of like a
Well, and a
medieval.
mother. It wouldn't just be 50% here. If Lorne had a baby, any woman that would have a baby with Lorne has got to be just as fucked up and careless, and just like Tiffany said, to put a child in that position for the rest of their life.
Mhm.
Even if Lorne never laid a finger, even if he never ever hurt that baby, even if he never looked at them
Right.
inappropriately, nothing, you're still condemning that kid to the
Right.
life of the kid of the pedophile.
Right.
The
Here's a
trailer
picture of your
pedo.
father licking a black dildo. What do you think?
Oh my God,
Here's
I know.
here's a picture of your father's
But
dropping a deuce in the toilet. What do you
His
think?
asshole, his dick. Here are
Yeah.
5,000
Here's a
pictures of your father's
Here's a
dick.
picture
Here's
of
him
your
doing
father on a
naked
roof
yoga.
taking a picture of his
But even
exposed
worse
body.
than that, Shin, here's a recording of your father talking to the 13-year-old girl he was trying to have
Yeah.
sex with, asking her if she was going to bring her little panties in her suitcase.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Here's the chat log of your dad telling a little girl to fucking touch herself. Here's him telling
And
her what he wants to do to her.
yes,
Here's
and
here's
also
the-
here's a discussion about a lie detector test that
Mhm.
he
Yep.
failed
Yes.
because he was going on the internet looking for media for sexual purposes for young people, and also him saying that a 9-year-old singing the national anthem on TV was too sexual.
Yeah, that was a sexy 9-year-old. Here's a recording of your dad telling his little baby girl Rhoda what daddy's going to do to her.
Right.
All
Mhm.
these,
Here's a recording of your dad hiding in the woods, crying like a bitch.
well, that
Thanks.
one would be funny.
here's a transcript of your father in court losing it, crying, saying he wanted to do his cooking show again. That top trumps it all, in my opinion. But
Here's a live stream of 4 people going over every aspect of your father's
They
life.
had nothing better to do.
Here's a recording of your father saying, I want your goddamn cock in my pussy so fucking
pussy.
bad. I want your cock in my asshole.
I hope no one's
mean, those
listening
ones are
to you at
funny,
home, Amanda
but-
James, saying this.
I
That's my
hide
girl.
I hide
That's
it from
my girl.
my children aren't going to hear me saying shit like that.
Just, yeah, you don't want to put yourself in that position. I think we've just pointed out just a stark, harsh reminder of the disadvantages that this child would have, and the problem that we have to, that we're all adult enough and mature enough to know is that there's many people out there that get themselves in situations like this potential scenario all of the time. There's convicted paedophiles having children. There was a guy.
Sorry, I gotta interrupt you, Johnny Utah. Here's a picture of your dad slow dancing with a pillow.
Yeah, that's a good one. Listen, honestly,
that's
I don't care.
Probably the worst.
I don't care if Lorne had sex. I don't care if he has sex every day for the rest of his life. I know a lot of people just don't want him to have any happiness. I don't care. What I care about is you don't get to have a baby after you try to rape a baby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've got something more important to say. Shin, are you chewing?
Kind of. but it's kind of a little Tic Tac thing.
Never
but that's
mind
okay.
all this children's scenario. Take that
Let me-
edible item out
let me
of your mouth
explain.
immediately. Oh God! Right,
Here's
yeah.
your father's book. Read it.
yeah. Yeah, Luke, here's a signed copy of Taken Abroad from your father. This is going to destroy you.
Oh, there's just so much to catch you up on.
Here's some of
Baby
his
Lorne.
poetry. Here's him writing
Maybe-
poetry to us Nigerian scammer.
And
Maybe
the thing
Junior
is
will
this
join the
stuff will be up for
community.
eternity.
Oh my God.
Maybe in like 15, 16 years or so, 18
Yeah.
years. Little
If this were
Junior
true,
will join us.
what should she do if she finally sees light here? What should she do? My response would be ghost him, never talk to him again, move if he knows where you live,
Terminate
and
his
change
right.
your kid's name. Do
Yeah,
not
terminate
name him
his
an
right.
Armstrong.
Get a restraining order. Slap
Do
yourself
everything
in
you
the
can.
face for having a baby with a pedophile. Yeah, but of course, don't let him have anything to do with the kid.
Yeah, and don't
Right.
ever tell that child who their father is.
Exactly. That's the big one. That's the big
Mhm.
one. You make an LJ. Create an LJ.
I was we're thinking about this potential female who let's call her Mrs. Armstrong. Mrs. Armstrong, obviously we've got a lot of disdain. We've got a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Anger and potential hatred towards her for putting herself into position and creating a child with this guy. Lorne, the interesting thing about all this is my echo's coming through, I think. Don't know if it's on my end. Lorne wouldn't think that he was doing anything wrong in this scenario. So, in Lorne's brain, he actually thinks that he'd be a good father. He actually
Of
thinks
course.
that he would be responsible. He actually would trick himself, because he is tricking himself, into believing that this child would be great because it means that he can have a great relationship with the mother. He can finally put the rights, the wrongs that have happened to him, right with this child. That everything will be great. I don't think he would go into it with evil intentions, but evil would come from it, if that makes sense. It isn't. I mean, do you
I
agree
get
with
it.
that, Tiffany?
Yeah. No, of course, Lorne is going to think that he's going to be a great father. He's going to be an amazing husband. He's going to give this little family more love than they could ever imagine. They're going to introduce them to his mom, and they're going to have an amazing life. Amazing life. He's going to be able to provide for them, and he just has so much love to give that there's really nothing more that they'll ever need. They're not going to have any money. They're going to
I'm
live
hoping
in a
this woman has money,
shithole.
at least.
But
She's-
Lorne will
she's
think
not
that they
gonna be
will because
exploited.
he's got loads of business propositions on the horizon. He's going to write another
True.
book. He's going to
He's
sell
got a
Beanie
pallet empire.
Babies, etc.
No, that is true. But whenever the subject of money has come up in the past with Catfish, who were very, very wealthy, his point was always, I don't have a lot of money, get money off of your mind. And even when he was talking to Kayla and talking about how he's going to get her a red BMW, immediately needed to take that away and not have that be the expectation. I think that he really wants someone who's going to hold on to the idea that love is all you need. So we're going to live in a shack. It's probably going to fall down at some point, but I love you and
Mhm.
we're together.
And by the way, for some reason, she decided to come down and bring the child to Cornville. There's no way a child protective services will let a child live in that place.
No, of course
No.
not. Of course not.
But I was just thinking, no matter where they live, even if they got a brand new house, Lorne would tear it apart and turn it into
Yeah,
shit.
you would.
Yeah.
He just lives like a garbage, like the raccoons who live in my garage. they swim around and they rip the trash apart and swim around in it, and that they're happy. That's what Lorne does. He just swims around in his garbage. That's what makes him happy, is to collect trash. He would hoard any place that he got. He would try to do renovations and improvements on the place by putting weird windows everywhere and stuff
He
from
probably
the
smells
dump.
like the dump.
It would be so unsafe because we know he doesn't have the skill to make anything that is like structurally sound.
No.
And like you said, he's poor. He has no money. He has $2.08 in his bank account. So they're not going to have some nice, in this imaginary situation, they wouldn't have some nice new home. They'd live in a trailer, be it in Cornville or wherever this chick is from.
Here's the other thing. In order for Lorne to be a legal stepfather, he would have to adopt that child. There's no way a court would approve that.
He could never, right?
No, yeah, because I did.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, he would be stepfather in name only. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because I had looked into it just briefly, just to see, is it possible? And they said, well, Google said, there's no way for someone like him to legally adopt.
The standard for the court to issue is the best interest of the child. And there's no way this guy represents the best interest of the child. I mean, he's basically disqualifiable. He couldn't even file a petition.
Shin, what would happen, right? Let's just, in this scenario where there is a real child, Lorne is now a father, let's just say for argument's sake it's a girl. We can talk about that in more detail another time. What would be the limitations on him being a father with his RSO status? What would he not be allowed to do?
Everything. If he first of all, forget about adoption, forget about foster children, like he was talking about. Forget about all that stuff. It's never going to happen. He's barely able to get a dog if he wants one. But if he wants to adopt a child or anything like that, he has to go to court and get the court to approve it. That's in the best interest of the child. It's, they do an investigation and whatnot. And he wouldn't get through the front door. If he had the child naturally, it was his own biological child, then again a lot of things kick in when he's we've learned a lot of things. He's talked about his friends who've had to bring in their wives for parenting class and things like that. They got to get them situated for that. They've got to set up a what do they call those plans, Tiffany? I can't remember. But it deals with the child security and whatnot, who's left
like
alone
a safety
with them.
plan?
What is it?
Like a safety plan?
Safety plan, right. They have to put safety plans together. So they don't just go, okay, Lorne, you have a child, you're off on your own now. No, there's a lot more to it now.
So basically, there's a lot of state involvement. I mean, I know it sounds obvious to say this. This is a sex offender. This is a dangerous guy. He's a danger to children, especially females. And basically, it's a problem. It's a huge problem that would. I mean, this thing happens all the time. So, we've already said that. But this would be like loads of meetings from professionals, social services, healthcare, law enforcement to be involved. It'd be a fucking mess. And that's not even getting onto who the mum is, because the mum is going to have issues as well. And there'd be all sorts going on.
Well, imagine if it was your sister. And you saw this happening.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't you have a problem with it? Wouldn't the family have a problem with this?
Massively.
They would go into court.
Not necessarily. I would suggest that this person comes from a family that probably wouldn't give a fuck.
Well, she's probably got other problems.
Right. Some people, the whole family's fucked up.
But this, let's just assume that there were people who are normal around her. I don't think the whole family would fuck Lorne, but still.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, dude, but it's a possibility, but I 99.9% believe that if this woman is real and this is a scenario, she won't be in a position where there'll be people around her in her life saying, you want to stay away from this guy. Mm-hmm. And even if they did...
I'm talking about people taking legal action against her as being unfit.
But... Well, I mean, that's a possibility because she's having sex. She's having a child with a sex offender.
It's self-evident. I mean, you're bringing a dangerous man into your household? Seriously? and you know, for whatever reason, I mean, I think that it's the court could easily find her unfit and award the child to one of her relatives.
Yeah, it's getting a bit like pretty grim, this, isn't it? Because we're talking about like the dregs of society here, and you know, Lorne having a child. It's a really sad thing to contemplate. It's like I'm kind of glad we've said that Lorne, because I don't see Lorne as this massively evil figure that wants to cause harm to people. He's a bad person. Don't misunderstand me. Because like you said, Tiffany, you agreed with me. Lorne would initially have the best intentions with this child, but it would very quickly fall apart, in my opinion. What would start to happen, and it wouldn't take long, because he would realise he's in way over his head. The child wouldn't be looked after properly. His schemes would start falling apart. There'd be relationship problems with the mother. The child would have developmental issues. It would be a shit show. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. He doesn't understand reality. It's just kind of even like with him thinking about relationships. It's all fantasy for him. He just daydreams about it and how wonderful it's going to be to have somebody around all the time, and for them to be playing Twister for 2 hours in the living room. They're having a great time, and it's all amazing. And he thinks about, you know, having a baby. It's going to be something that he can love, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be really cute, but he's not thinking about what actually happens and how there's a lot of challenges that come along. And even with the relationships, there's a lot of challenges. Imagine the type of person that Lorne could have an actual relationship with. It's going to be someone who's just like him, who's unhinged, who doesn't have healthy social skills or relationship skills. I mean, it's going to be a
Possibly
lot of
drug addicted.
fighting. Yeah, right. They're going to have some type of a problem where he's going to be someone that they're willing to entertain, and that it's not going to be a normal person. It just isn't.
That household will never form.
If this is a real scenario, that child's likely to be taken off them at some point.
No.
If not before, because there's you know, children are born here all the time, and they're taken off them straight away as soon as they're born. They're taken off the parents because of scenarios exactly like this.
People are on drugs, things like that. Yeah, absolutely. The child's addicted.
Yeah,
You know, the other thing I keep bringing up, I forgot to bring up, is the idea that he has not progressed in class is very, very important. I mean, if we were to look at the Dustin McFetrich's cases, case, he's that was his main problem. He has shown no progress in class, and that's why he was being violated. In addition to having communication with some children or anything like that, but the big one was his no progress.
Right.
The same thing apply, and you got to remember that's federal probation too, so it's the same standard. They have the same concern for Lorne. They just haven't raised that issue yet. Before it was just about his alcoholism.
So if he were able to win in some certain way here, meaning maybe probation opposes him getting off of probation, that doesn't mean that he can't have set of probation transferred elsewhere, correct?
Oh, we can, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, he's gone through this a few times with us. He's got to get a job first, then a place, and then he's got to get established, you know, whatever. He's got to do all that field work ahead of time before he does it. He can't just pick up and leave like that. By the way, I know I've heard some people were thinking about sending letters to the judge on this case, kind of amicus letters, friend of the court kind of thing. If you do something like that, guys, please be respectful. You could only be helping him if you're going to troll the judge on this thing. So again, I don't think that there's anybody had that intent in mind, but just keep that in mind to be as respectful as possible in order to be effective. You could always write the judge. It doesn't matter. You never get in trouble for that. But if you want to be effective in this case and not help him, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, good advice. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what comes of this. So when are we likely to get a response, Shin, in regard to this original request that Lorne's put
But by the
forward
28th, by the 28th,
of,
I get
of May?
yeah, most of the time they'll be working on the motion all the way, their opposition all the way through, to make sure they get all the final touches correct and use all the time possible. But sometimes they could file it earlier. You never know.
What is likely to be what type of thing is going to be? Obviously, they're going to deny.
It's going to be an opposition. Yeah, it's going to look like this, but it's going to be from the government, and it's going to be an opposition, and it's probably just going to be a memorandum. It's not a motion, obviously, because you're not a moving part in that case, but they're responding, and they're just going to talk. They're just going to go over all of the reasons why it's a bad idea for Lorne to be off probation.
So I suppose what I really want to know is it possible that this document is going to contain hard facts about his alleged parenthood?
Yeah, they would have to. I mean, that's the fact was presented to them by Lorne. They have to respond to it.
What I mean,
that's
that
one of
do
his
they have
bases.
to they have to seek proof? So they have to say,
Yeah,
right,
well, that's what
okay.
they probably have a lot of information that we don't know about. They could very well validate it. They could very well say, no, we've heard this from him. He's talking about a virtual relationship again. There could be many things, but our answers will be there.
Maybe he's had an AI baby. He's in a relationship with an app, an AI an AI person, and then the AI woman has had an AI baby, and Lorne thinks he's a father of a digital person.
That's the next logical step, right? That's the next logical thing. I mean, he had a robot girlfriend.
Can you imagine that? Be hilarious if he was like, he has now fathered the child. What is the child called? 008642. Like, it's just. But nothing's off the table with this guy. Just remember that, guys. We find it's like Shin said earlier. It might come back with something like, "Well, we never. Why didn't we think of that? Of course, he's having a relationship with he's impregnated a dog. Why didn't we think of that?
Yeah. He's in prison. We didn't even know it.
He's got one of the prison guards.
That's right.
That prison guard that he fancied. He got sent back to prison on purpose just to get
that guard that he was hunting for. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, when that document, when the response comes, we will be there very quickly,
right.
like Lorne, at a bar with a load of, I don't know, what's his favorite drink, Bud Light, but yeah, we'll be there.
Children.
Milk.
Yeah, yeah, quicker than Lorne at a playground. That's what we'll be. And I think we've covered a lot. It's kind of it's just two sentences written from a guy who's a careered liar and who doesn't know what reality is. So we've not had a lot to go on, but the thing is, the advantage of it coming from a person like Lorne is it sends you in so many directions because it's very intriguing because of the situations that he finds himself in and how hilarious they are. It does send your mind racing in a million directions. But as we have come to discuss later at the back end of the stream, there's a real potentially upsetting and disturbing scenario that can't be dismissed, and that is that Lorne should never have a child. We all can agree with that. He's just not.
He's just sterilizing.
And if someone has got him pregnant, they're as bad as him, and it is a tragic scenario where a child is not going to be properly cared for, and it's maybe even sad but true to say there's little hope of that child having a good life unless they're immediately taken off them and given to, and hoping that they never find out the true parentage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to hold on to the idea that there's nothing to this.
Stepmother?
No,
Is that another troll?
that he's just
AI
been lied
baby.
to. AI baby, right? That was used in this
That
idea
would be pretty
that was
ballsy of
planted to
Lorne, though.
Lorne.
That
What do you
would be
mean?
pretty ballsy. He doesn't have balls. I don't know
About what?
about lying openly and there being nothing at all. Is that what you just
No,
said?
no, no.
Okay.
I mean about him being lied to and
Oh,
believing
lied to. Yeah,
that
yeah,
he's
yeah,
the
yeah. The
yeah.
troll, the step. What falls into that is the stepfather. You can be the stepfather of my kid and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. I think that it's more likely that they lied about a pregnancy.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
timelines don't make
but then
sense.
they're not mutually. It's not mutually exclusive. They could still lie about a pregnancy and still lie about him being a stepfather.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that
definitely.
means he had sex. Means he did it.
Yeah,
I
and
think he did
Lorne's
it.
erectile
I think so, too.
dysfunction theory is not a
I'm still
possibility
hanging on to
anymore.
that.
No,
I'm
no,
still
no,
hanging
no, no,
on
no,
to
no,
that.
no.
The
Well, but
smoking, the smoking, the the damage he's done to himself. I can't imagine his vascular system's well enough to pump blood down there. I don't.
No,
I don't know.
sure.
Lorne's father was a
psychologically,
heavy
too.
smoker, and he had like 1 million children.
He did have 1 million children.
You know, could be.
Don't put them things in
But
your
then
mouth just yet,
again-
Shin. I know you're getting ready to chew, aren't you?
Yeah, I can't help it. I got to go to a right away.
We need to send him to
Yeah,
chewing
this
on
whole thing is so
streams class.
disturbing. What's that?
We need to send you to chewing on streams class.
Yes.
I
Well, the
agree.
thing is,
Sorry, Tiffany, go on.
no, I was just gonna say, I think that remember the Paula situation where he said that they halfway had sex. And it could have been something like that as well. We don't actually
Right.
know.
He didn't finish though in that situation. Remember?
He didn't. So, but
Yeah,
at
but you
the same
don't
time,
split pasture.
right?
I mean, not that Lorne knows. I'm sure he doesn't know.
But he
that,
could be told that. He could also be
Right.
told that it still
Mhm.
happened. You
Mhm.
know. So.
Yes, you're right.
Maybe he
So,
thought if
we'll
he
go
just
with that.
peed on her or something.
Oh my God.
I know he's the
Yeah,
sick. You know,
I
he's
agree.
an
I
animal.
think that's a scenario. That's a possibility. I think the good news is from this stream. I think that because we've gone over the possible scenarios and we've used a bit of our prior knowledge, I think the possibility that it's a real child that is genuine, that his biologically father has become less and less a real possibility in my
Right.
opinion. I think it's some kind of bizarre catfishing scenario, and
Don't underestimate the impossible.
well, that's very true. Wise words from some kind of philosopher that I could only hope to meet one
Sage.
day. But yeah, we don't know. But I think, I don't think that this is the real grim scenario that we fear, for the reasons that we've gone over. So that's quite a cool thing to end it on. But
It wouldn't be the first time that he's presented something to probation that's fake.
Exactly.
was
That's exactly what I'm saying. He wouldn't need to hold this baby in his arms and watch it being born and see the DNA test to tell probation and his lawyer and anyone who would listen that he had a baby. Just like with
From
Casey.
your mouth to God's
he
ears.
was-
I hope that's right.
He was telling probation, his class, his mother, his brothers, like everyone he knew that he was talking to Casey very, very quickly, the latest Casey.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, she's real this time. It's the real one.
She's real this time. Can you imagine having
I
to say
know.
that to your family? Yeah, this one's real. I'm telling you, it's a real person.
Well, that's the funny thing about this as well, is even having this conversation, because if you were to read this from anybody else, you'd be like, oh, okay, they think they have a kid. So obviously something happened, there was some kind of a relationship. But with Lorne, you have to question if that ever happened. And that's really funny.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one glimmer of excitement or happy optimism we have here, is I think that document that we have coming is going to be huge. I think it's going to have a lot of things in it for us to go over, and it's going to cover a lot of the missing years, the 2 years that we're missing. So if there's anything,
That's great.
you know,
That's
positive
really
you can
something
take
to
away
look forward to, that, isn't it?
yeah, I'm just
That's fantastic.
trying to cheer people up here.
We'll be able to say Happy Memorial Day because that'll
I don't
really
know.
be done.
Do you know what's
I hope
great
it doesn't.
about
Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
about this scenario is there's no end to Lorne's shenanigans, is there? There's always something. Just when you think he's not getting catfished anymore, or something pops up. Like, what? He's fathered a kid. It's like, I knew something was going to happen again. Even if this turns out to be nonsense, which we think it is, it's
See
still,
what happens when we leave him on his
still a
own.
bit. Yeah, it's still a bit of intrigue. You're right. Yeah, exactly. Look at the trouble he's got himself into. He'd be better off just talking to the robot.
And he wants to get off probation.
Right, okay, guys. We're going to end it there. There's not really much else to... Well, there is loads to talk about, but we can't go on forever. It's getting late here as well. So, thank you very much to all of my friends here that have joined us. I do appreciate it. Thank you for everybody in the chat. And yeah, we will certainly be back when we get the response to this. Hopefully it'll be as great as what Shin believes it may be, because 2 years worth of history would absolutely be fantastic. I want it to be loads of like vague hints and like stuff that we can just theorize. Oh, what he did, potentially did what? It's like he had a relationship with 3 cats and, you know, some crazy scenario. But yeah, so yeah, thanks everybody. Look out for more stuff coming soon. And,
everybody subscribe to the couple of misdemeanors. I just put their link right here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Shin.
could you not just...
They stay on top of stuff. So
We do an excellent job.
They do too.
Sure do.
Well, if you just type in the chat, Tiffany, won't it be a direct link to your channel? Or would you have to sign in?
I would have to sign in under that name. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But Shin put the link in there, so thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody's kind of everybody's kind of watching your stuff, aren't they? But saying that though, we could always
They
use
better
some
be.
new... Well,
If you're not, you should be.
Yeah. So
Right.
take that as a word of warning, guys. So check out their stuff and just keep in touch with us. And yeah, we'll speak to you soon. And yeah.